Hey, good morning, everybody. Today's video may be a little longer than just the regular 12 minutes or whatever for a song because today is kind of a tribute video to a very special lady who we lost this year, Aretha Franklin. She's the queen of soul, the queen of everything, right? So, first, I want to talk a little bit about her start in the music industry. Um, Actually, I'll say this first, right? So you hear the term triple threat all the time, which basically means they can what? Sing, dance, and act, or they can do whatever, right? This woman was like a quadruple or more, right? So, like, she was a singer, a songwriter, an actress. She was an activist, um, and she was a pianist. I mean, this woman could do it all. She was just phenomenal, and that's why I truly believe artists like this, like, come. We get very few of them. It broke my heart. I literally cried the day that she passed, and I think a lot of other people did. It's kind of like that reaction people had when Prince died. I got upset when Prince died. Okay, so let's get back to Aretha. So, she's got an interesting story. So she was actually born in Tennessee, but her father was a minister, and when her mom passed, they moved to Detroit, by the way. And he kind of like he decided he was, because she sang in the church. A lot of you'll realize that a lot of these like divas or women who can just like belt it out, like Jennifer Hudson, Whitney Houston was another one. They sang in church first. That's where they started. And so, but her dad kind of like built this like kind of like he was like a traveling minister, and so they had this traveling caravan where they would go from church to church to church, and she would sing. And so he decided he was going to be her manager and actually helped her sign her first record deal, which was, you're going to excuse me, I have a couple notes because it's kind of crazy, her history as far as record companies and stuff, because she actually had a lot as far as artists go. So her original record deal was with JVB Records, and she only recorded 9 tracks with them, and that was it. And they were all gospel, by the way. She originally started out as a gospel singer, that original album. And I know you guys all know Checker um, Records, right? So what ended up happening was uh, Checker ended up releasing an album of those tracks. I think JVB Records only released 1 or 2 double-sided 45s of those 9 tracks that they made with her. And then she left them. Checker released a full album of those songs that she made with them, which was gospel. But as they were traveling around and stuff, they eventually made their way to California, where she met Sam Cooke. And Sam Cooke at the time was doing, he was obviously a blues artist. He was phenomenal, but he also kind of had mainstreamed himself, and had a huge influence on her in her career. And they were really good friends for, up until his death. But at that point in time, when she turned 18, she looked at her dad and she said, "Hey, I don't want to just kind of be blocked in as a soul artist. I want to branch out. I want to spread my wings. I want to go, not pop." I mean, back then when you said pop, it wasn't like cringy. You know what I mean? When you said pop, it meant popular music. I want to be able to go mainstream. I want my records played on the radio. When Checker put out that album, somebody from Columbia Records heard it, and she was signed to Columbia. She had kind of like modest success with Columbia. Wasn't really like, she didn't do anything substantial with them. And so then she left them, and she signed with Atlantic Records. The second she signed with Atlantic Records, it's like that's when her career took off. So once she signed with Atlantic Records, that's when you got the hits like Respect, Think, Chain of Fools, Natural Woman. I mean, I could just go on and on. She started having problems with them probably about 9 years later. There were some problems. I don't know. You know how contracts were so hooky back then? Record deals, they were so shady back then. So anyway, in 1976, she left Atlantic Records. And that's when she signed with Arista. And she did put out more songs with Arista. I don't have a list of the songs she put out with Arista, but she did put out more songs with Arista. Several more songs. She put out a lot of albums with Arista. She did end up leaving Arista eventually and going to another company again, in the 80s, in the late 80s. But, so she had a very long career as far as, musically. And I've never heard of an artist over the span of their career, even if it's been a 50, 60-year career. I've never heard of them changing record labels that many times and not being in court or having to sue the label for something or whatever. So, I never heard, and in everything I've read about her, she never changed managers, which means her father managed her up until the day he died. So obviously he taught her in some way how to keep the rights to her songs, how to keep, because you hear a lot of, back then, and even up until like, I don't know if you remember, like the big, huge battle Backstreet Boys went through, a lot of those boy bands went through, where even Prince, it happened with Prince with Purple Rain. When he moved companies, they said he couldn't have Purple Rain. That's why he ended up changing his name to a symbol. Just real quick, I just want to go over some of the phenomenal things that this woman has done. So, she was always a civil rights and women's rights activist that was well known, well documented. She would do things. She even go so far as to support them with money, but not just charity, like throwing money at them. If there was a civil rights group or a women's activist group that, like a nonprofit, and they were doing something that was really important to her in some way, she would completely cover the payroll for that company, for that nonprofit. She would throw benefits to support these nonprofits or these organizations. She also stood in protests, many protests. She was involved with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She grew up around these people. She knew these people from the time she was a child all the way up. All these activists and advocates. And what was not widely known, yet well documented in many ways, is that she was a huge supporter, activist, advocate for Native Americans and Native American rights. So over her career, this woman charted 112 songs on Billboard, and out of those songs, 72 of them were in the top 100. She was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. and she was the first female artist to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She has the National Medal of the Arts. She has the Presidential Medal of Freedom. She was inducted into the UK Hall of Fame in 2005, the Gospel Hall of Fame in 2012. She has 18 Grammys. I can just go, and she has sold over 75 million albums. I can just go on and on, but we're already at 16 minutes. Now, I am going to play a song of hers. I cannot play a song of hers that she is singing because her copyright is so crazy that if you try to do it directly of hers, her doing it, she is actually blocked in 249 countries, cannot play actually her doing something. So but if it is a cover of one of her songs, then I'm okay. What I am going to be playing for you is Christina Aguilera doing her song Think, because remember, right now we're covering movement songs, right? Songs that happen when you're in crisis, or when the country's in crisis, or protest songs or stuff like that. I think is very much what we need now. It was what we needed back then. So this is Christina Aguilera doing Think during a tribute to Aretha Franklin right after her death. So let's get that going.
For the first time, way back when I was on a show called the Mickey Mouse Club with a bunch of other amazing co-stars. Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears and Ryan Gosling and Kerry Russell and some amazing people. So this is it. I want you all to sing with me. Okay? So, about what you're trying to do to me, that you're not gonna let yourself be free. Let's go back, let's go back, let's go on. I didn't even know you couldn't hear too much more to say. I know my conscience, I know my free. It don't take too much time to see what you do to me. You had me, that you're not gonna let yourself be free.
So that was Think. There's a lot of covers out there, but I picked the one by Christina Aguilera because she's just obviously got an amazing voice, and I thought she would do it justice, which she did. And so that's our tribute to Aretha Franklin. Rest in peace. I know you're up there looking down on us, and I know you're, just right where you're supposed to be, one of the angels. So, to the Queen of Soul. And I hope you guys enjoyed it, and you guys have a great day, and take care of each other because no one else is going to.